Next can be used for more than just transaction management. It can also be used to manage those active buyers who are a client of yours but have not yet found a property. Okay, so this is different than your typical CRMs, which are all about bringing in leads and then trying to convert them as unrepresented buyers and into clients. And it's kind of a lot of drips and things like that. We're a little bit different. We're wanting to make sure that the search experience, when you have that relationship already established with the client, is incredible. So on top of managing listings and closings, we also want to manage that active buyer search experience. So let's go to plans, and you'll see that now on top of pending buyer and pending seller in these different categories, we have something called active buyer, and everyone's account will come with this next active buyer roadmap. And this consists of different tasks, reminding you to do a buyer consultation, as well as updating the lead in your CRM. Making sure they're signed up for MLS listings in a portal. And then there's also text messages, emails, pre-written with personalization that says, hey, these are the next steps that are going to happen while we look for a new home. There's also going to be tasks that really happen over the first couple weeks. Down below here, we have some pre-written emails every week that says, hey, how am I doing? Are you getting listings that match what you're looking for? There's also going to be ones about, hey, it's been 2 weeks. I know you haven't found anything. Don't stress. The best properties, come on and go pretty quickly. So existing inventory is not a great place to look. And then after 3 weeks, maybe you're considering new construction. This is why you should work with me to help you buy that home, because the last thing we want is a client walking into a builder, signing a contract, and then things get a little hairy. Okay, so as our industry transitions to requiring buyer representation agreements, it's very important that we are able to put on display the value that we provide to our clients. So as you can see, amongst this list, everything that we're doing to ensure a good experience, and even as we get down here into these bottom dozen tasks, this is the roadmap for when they do find that house, what to expect. Okay, you're not necessarily going to be managing their contract in here. We're going to flip them over to another action plan, but it's important that they see the roadmap of, hey, this is what to expect when we do find the house. So as most of you know, a lot of buyers make the argument that, hey, I have found the property myself. Yeah, that's this one task, identify property to submit an offer. But you can see all these other things that we do and everything that comes after that. So as we put our value on display, it's only going to ensure that every buyer recognizes that using a realtor or real estate agent makes a ton of sense, and the value that we provide is worth the money that we charge. So this is the action plan that you can find. And I'm going to show you how we can use Next to manage those buyers with this action plan and the client portal. So we're going to jump over to our properties, and I recognize it says properties. We'll likely be updating that to include active buyers. But let's go down. I'll show you a active buyer that is already set up with their portal, and it's super simple to do. We'll get to that in just a second. But George Hutchins has a portal. We'll go and take a look at it. And this is something that has already been sent to George that they can review. And you can see this is a stock photo that we put together. But let's go ahead and preview that portal. And this is everything that George would see. And there's a great mobile version of this as well. Just a quick cover page, some details about the buyer representation agreement in here. This is where it's super important that we show that roadmap. So this is everything that's happening. And again, you can control what tasks you want them to see. You can provide details about every task. Down here, it kind of gives you an approximate time frame for when we do have a contract accepted, what to expect between that point and closing. We can also include a list of all the service providers. So whether it's the mortgage lenders we want to recommend, title companies, home inspectors, movers, credit repair counselors, this list can expand as we go through the process, but this is a place where we can insert all of our valuable contacts and we can share it with every client with ease. Down below here, we also have some notes that we can preload. So if you want to send them out to links, whether it's your social media, whether it's requesting a review, if you think that they're ready for that step, if it is information just about the city, if it's your YouTube page where you have all sorts of information about neighborhoods, you can post notes and links in here. And then, of course, we have contact information for those in the transaction. And when you look at this on mobile, you'll be even more impressed. So let me show you how we can build this portal really simply and easily for all of your clients. So we're going to go back here into our Next account, and we go to our setup page. You'll notice that on the left-hand side, there's a section called Client Portal Setup. For each different category that we have for Nekst, we'll have different things that are important. So different documents that we want to share, different detail boxes that we want to track. There might be a different photo involved, different service providers. So if we're working with a seller, we don't want to include home inspectors, obviously. So we could pick the different service providers that go along with that category, and again, different notes. So if we go down to our active buyer section, this is where we can basically build out our template. We can still edit it on a per property basis, but we can put in most of the information that we want to provide to every client. So when it comes to the title, what we can do is we can say, let's go ahead and we're going to use a smart tag, and there's another video on that, but let's use buyer first name, let's say buyer full name, and we'll call it home purchase roadmap. So that's going to be the title of our portal. Now down here, we can choose which of our detail boxes, and there's another video on how we can create all sorts of different detail boxes we want to include. So we're going to include the buyer's name in the portal, the details, as well as our buyer agreement execution expiration dates. I'm not going to include the percentage, but if you want to, you can include that as well. Down here, we can choose what contacts to display, and we're just going to default that, hey, anytime we add a contact to a transaction, so whether it's a lender, whether it is a credit repair counselor, we want them to automatically be added into the transaction. Here, we can also include documents. So you may have given your client a packet of information when you met with them about your team, about the buying process, about anything that just makes sense for the experience that they are going through. And we can pick and choose any of the documents that have been preloaded into our account that we want to include in every portal. So I'm going to include our home buyer overview. I'm going to include our, let's see, the buyer presentation. We can include that in the meet the team. Okay, so if there's certain disclosures that you have to provide up front, it's a great place to do it. If you want to include a consumer guide or something like that, you can do that there. This is where we would choose our service providers. Okay, and we can go ahead and add them all now, and then before we actually send the client their portal, we can go in and edit this, and we can take certain people out if we don't want to include them. So for now, let's just go ahead and put in all of our mortgage lenders, all of our title companies, and we'll just say all of our home inspectors, even though we're a little ahead of schedule. So we'll go ahead and pick all of these different people, and they will show up. And then down here, we can store notes in advance, okay? And these are notes that will apply to the account. Okay, the moment that you launch it, it will have that date and time stamp. So it looks like you created a note specifically for them at the time that you set this up. So if you want a client to potentially go to your YouTube page, check out my YouTube videos on all the great neighborhoods around Detroit. And then I'll say YouTube.com/my, I'm just making this up. My Detroit videos, sure. And we will go ahead and click to check that off. So we've already preloaded this. The one piece that's missing, we're going to go ahead and take our active buyer logo that we created. And unlike a closing where you have a picture of the house, you might want to just create something that represents you or your team, and you can go ahead and embed this image on every portal. And then this has the option to automatically turn the portal on or not. So we'll go ahead and turn it on. We'll only share it when it's ready, but we can go ahead and activate it. We're going to click on the save button. So there's a little bit of setup. Adding some of these documents will be a step. Setting up which detail boxes you want to manage based on the category that we're working with will take a little bit of setup, but that's pretty quick. And then we set up this portal configuration, and we're pretty much ready to go. So let's go back to our home page, and I'll show you how we can add a buyer. So where it says add new property or add new buyer, for the moment, we're just going to put in the client's name. So Debbie Smith, and we're going to set this up as an active buyer with our roadmap. We can pick today as the start date, or we can pick when we signed the buyer agreement if we would like. And normally we would put in when we want this to expire or when the agreement expires. So we'll go ahead and say this is a agreement through the end of August, and we'll click on add the property. Now we're going to go through a similar process to launching an action plan. However, most of our key dates will not change. So most of these key dates are pretty standard, or they are just estimated dates. So unlike a purchase where you're really comparing it to a contract to make sure that we have all the right dates, we can pretty much just skip right to step 4. And we're going to add in Debbie Smith. Okay, we'll add a mobile number, and we will put them in as the buyer, and we will launch. So from this point, we have all of these things that we need to do, and part of it is putting these tasks on here, like consult or conduct buyer consultation, execute buyer representation agreement. This helps us to communicate to our client that this is an expectation, that this is part of the process. There's also a text message that would go out that says, hi Debbie, here's a link to your portal. Also down here where we have our emails, you can see that here's another one that, hey, Debbie, it was a pleasure meeting you. Here's all the steps that you have to do. We're going to set you up for listing notifications. Go ahead and get pre-approved, and a copy of any paperwork we sign can be found in here as well. Oh, and here's your client portal website. You're going to love it. And click on go back. But these are all those steps. So just like you manage properties, you can also do a better job of managing Debbie and making sure you're following through on all the promises that you are making during your buyer representation presentation. Okay, now let's go and check out that portal. So you can see the pictures here. It's set up. Our title is set up. All of these details that we wanted to include. If we want to add in here, get qualified by a recommended lender, let's check out our mortgage lenders, and let's specifically send them to Brian George, just because we feel like it. Now we can provide additional service providers down here. We have our attached documents. We can choose even who do we want from our team to be the one branded. Okay, so we've made these updates. We're going to go ahead and click update here. One more thing I'm going to do, I'm going to jump back to our details page and just edit this information. So in case they go by something more informal, or if you want to include other people involved in the process, we'll also say 500 to 650,000 in Detroit. You can fill this with as much as you want. And then we'll also put in, if we know when our buyer agreement expirations are, we can do that. If we want to put our commission percentage, we can here as well, just so we can keep track of that better. When we go back to our client portal, we'll go ahead and you can see these are now bold because there are values in here. We will preview the portal, and we will have this beautiful customized roadmap for our clients with all of this wonderful information that we can provide. This is one of the first technology tools that's really been built to be shared with buyer clients, so they really feel like they have a grasp on the transaction, and all of the valuable resources that you have acquired from your time in the business can easily be shared with them. So a little bit of setup, but it's going to make a huge impact with all of your clients between now and when you decide to retire and live on a beach. Hope you love this feature.